But yeah, so that's too. That's the high school journey. So yeah, 6:30 in the morning, 3 days a week, and then Sunday afternoons,
Ooh, that's
Saturday
crazy.
and Sunday afternoon,
That's a crazy schedule for
Sunday
my
afternoon.
late waking up behind.
and then
Sunday after, how am I gonna watch the late game? How am I gonna watch the Witcher game?
That's why
Sunday
they. Oh
afternoon.
yeah. Oh yeah. You said Sunday afternoon. I thought you was saying Sunday in the morning. Shit. Yeah. How you gonna watch those games? I'm guessing you're gonna
what
be you got
the
them
playoffs?
recorded. Yeah, stuff like that.
Playoffs.
Oh, I
Playoffs.
look my
Yeah.
phone.
Oh
Your
yeah, I forgot
I
phone.
today's
watch games on my
technology.
phone and my iPad. I don't need that. I don't need to be home anymore.
That's true.
You're not coaching the
It's not
team.
the
You're just the
1990s.
ride.
Yeah, I just drive them there, drop them off, and then I may watch, watch them train or whatever. But sometimes I'll just sit in the car and put a game on and watch a
Do a
game.
little dad cheer, right? Do a little dad cheer. Like I'm still here.
Yeah, he don't really want me there anyway, because be like, I can't say he don't want me there. He's very, he's very concerned with
With your
um
opinion.
my opinion and my reaction when he does things. So sometimes
Well, of course.
I try to, stay in the cut and just
Where's
like
it?
peek in every once in a while.
It's a
So he
typical
don't see me.
kid thing. I bet you
Yeah.
when you was his age, you was be thinking the same exact thing.
My dad wasn't there, he was working. So had he been there, sure, I probably would have,
Um,
but he
Right.
wasn't he was
you know
working.
what's worse?
So
Having your father be there and then look like he's not paying attention because he's doing the New York Times crossword puzzle.
because he's doing what?
The New Times
The New
crossword
York
puzzle.
Times crossword puzzle. That day.
But that just means
Yeah.
he wasn't doing shit.
No, no. I was. I was playing pretty well. The shots I was scoring. And he's sitting there like doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. He's like, no, I'm paying attention. I see it. I see what's going
Yeah,
on.
but his
Oh
puzzle's got
man.
be a little bit more interesting.
Hey, this puzzle's not gonna finish itself. This crossword is not gonna do itself. You know? I'm like,
Very
all right,
entertaining puzzle.
During his
focusing
games
on
now, I just leave my phone in
priorities.
the car. When he has a game, I leave my phone in the car. So I can pay attention because I don't want to miss any of his shots, any of
For
his, any of his game.
everybody out there that was Ace's son saying, "Don't do that to me when I get that age, Ace. Don't be pulling out no crossword puzzle."
Hey,
Now I'm just gonna
look,
pull up a paper and read it. Be like, do something. It's gonna make you pay attention.
a paper. How old are you, bro?
All right? I'll be that old. That's right. I'm gonna go back in time, buy New York Times crossword puzzles. I'll have a book.
Kid's
I'm
gonna be
sitting
like,
there
"Who
reading
is
it
that
with glasses
decrepit
at the end
man
of my
sitting over
nose.
there reading a newspaper? What is that thing?" And I asked my dad. Just don't even just look
you,
away.
he went to the library and check out some newspapers.
That's
Oh
right.
man.
I'll be sitting there with the paper version of the Sports Illustrated.
Oh man. Well, with that, welcome to the Uptown Parlay podcast. We are into the playoffs.
Playoffs.
This is a you really did sound like Jim Mora did. Um we are absolutely into the playoffs. It's wild card weekend, man. How y'all guys doing? Ant and Ace on the chat. This is Malik. How y'all doing today?
Yeah, I'm
Feeling
doing fine.
great.
Till you said playoffs, so I started thinking being Ace's team is out while your team is still riding high as being the number one favorite team to
What you
actually
talking
win it
about?
all.
Ravens are hosting a home game. I feel
Man, that don't
great.
count, Ace. That don't count. But that don't count. But I want the Ravens to be in the Super Bowl.
I
Look,
do. I want Ravens, Lions, Detroit, and Baltimore.
now, well, okay,
Blackening
well,
in the Super
Ant, then
Bowl.
I have a question for you because I used to do this when my team went, I think it was like 15 years in a row or 17 years in a row we went without making the playoffs for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Good
Um,
lord.
yeah, it was something ridiculous. I remember there was a time when it was the three teams that it was the Jets, it was the Lions and the Bills. And I remember like trying to figure out which one of our teams was going to be in the playoffs first. But what I used to do during that time was I would adopt a playoff team that I would run with. Like, and I'd be like, all
Right.
right, at least for this time, I'm just going to root for this team and just see how it plays out. But I could never pick a team from my division. That would never happen. And even if I liked the team and liked the player, like a player on the team, I couldn't do it. And I almost typically would never pick a team from like the other conference. Like at least the conference wins, you know. So, Ant, do you have
Ah.
a team that you root for or that you're rooting for to see either to see make it to the thing or even to like go all the way
I have
with the
actually
Jets being
have
out?
two. I actually have two, but one of the teams is going to be on pause when they face the Lions. So that's Minnesota because of Sam Darnold. I want to see him succeed because he should have never left the Jets in the first place. And I think that he was a good quarterback that just needed time to get groomed. And I have quite, I'm also rooting for Ace's quite second favorite team, which is the Ravens, because I don't want to see the Bills or KC actually go further than the AFC Championship.
Well,
But yeah,
I guess in order for the Ravens to like the Ravens would have to beat the Bills. They have to win obviously this weekend, and they'd have to beat the
right,
Bills next week
right.
to make it to the
Yeah,
AFC Championship.
yeah. I'm never gonna root for any team that's in the AFC East besides the Jets.
Who are the Bills playing?
The Bills on the bye.
Broncos.
Oh, the
The
Broncos.
Bills are playing the Broncos. Uh,
Yeah, and
That's a tough
I
one
can't.
for them.
Of course, if anybody been listening to me for quite all the time for my little hatred for the Broncos, I can't root for them.
What's
so
your
you
beef
just
with the
should not watch
Broncos?
this game at all, Ian. This is a lose lose for you no matter what.
Yes,
And end
definitely.
in a tie.
Oh
But
yeah, they
Buffalo
could
will
end the tie.
definitely try.
Oh
But
yeah. Well, before we get into these picks, I wanted to do a quick recap for the season. It's been a good season for us. We'll
well,
recap
for y'all too, from what I saw.
we'll recap week 18 first, and then we'll talk about the
Right?
season. So
Drum roll.
week 18, we all went 9-7 in our picks. We picked 16 games. We all went 9-7 in our picks. Ace and Ant finished 5-1 on those best bets, and I finished 4-2. So really good end to the season, really good week 18 end to the season. And drum roll, as Ace mentioned, our season stats. So I didn't start tracking these games, our picks until week 7. I know we had done some picks the weeks before, but I wasn't tracking them in any kind of a tracker or anything like that. So these numbers come from
I
week
was
7.
80% before then.
Okay,
I was
that's fine. If you want to
100%.
believe what you want, that's perfectly fine.
I was 100%. I was because I was the greatest.
So from week 7, we picked 157 games. Ant picked 6 less games because Ant picked a few less games than that because he one week he didn't pick with us. But overall, we picked 157 games. Aaron Ace finished 93 and 64 for
Oh,
59%. Ant
59% of the
finished
time, I'm right 100% of the time.
Ant, this is all games. This is not best bets. I'll get the best bets. Ant finished 75 and 67 for a 53% clip. And I finished 90 and 67 for a 57% clip. On best bets, we also did pretty well. We best bet 66 total games. Ace finished 37 and 29, 56%. Ant finished 29 and 31, just under 50% at 48%. And I finished 37 and 29 as well at 56%. So if you stuck with us the entire season thus far, you're
I made
hitting,
y'all money.
we definitely did. You're hitting well over 60%. You're hitting almost 60% on all bets and well over 50%, almost 60% on those best bets. So you guys should, if you guys been sticking with us, we've been winning you guys money. So these playoff picks should be pretty good, pretty on pace for us. So let's get to them, fellas. Let's get to them. Let's get them knocked out.
All right.
Um, so Saturday, first matchup of the wild card playoff schedule. Chargers at Texans. Chargers 11-6, Texans 10-7, finished the season 10-7. The Chargers won was that a meaningless game? No, it wasn't a meaningless game from a standings perspective. They won their last game against the
It made
Raiders
him the
last week.
5 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, which made them the 5 seed and gave them the opportunity to play the Texans and to go to Houston. Right now, the Chargers are the favorite. Again, these lines are coming from FanDuel Sportsbook. The Chargers are favored by 2.5. The over/under in this game is 42.5. Um, the Chargers have been pretty solid over the course of the season, and we've talked about them, but they've been a hard bet for me over the course of the season in terms of recognizing when they were going to be able, how they were going to be able to cover points because they don't score a lot of points. They win with their defense, they win with their running game, and they haven't been a team that scored a whole bunch over the course of the season. This team, as we used to probably saw, in years past, with Justin Herbert throwing the ball all over the field, they were an explosive offense that did a lot there. But since Jim Harbaugh's been there, they've kind of dialed things back a little bit, which has brought the scoring down somewhat. But they're in the playoffs, and he has one of the best defenses in the league, going up against the 10-7 Texans, who I would say 10-7 is probably a bit of a letdown for this team. This team was looked at as being one of the best teams in the AFC, and probably this record being where it is, and them kind of limping into the playoffs is not a good sign for them. So, Ace, I'm gonna start with you here. Chargers at Texans. Chargers -2.5. What are you thinking?
I know the Chargers are going on the road, but I am picking the Chargers based on their defense and especially their secondary and how physical they can be. Uh, Spoke to my dad before this. He wanted to relay his picks, so I'm going to give those at the end. But I am going with the Chargers and I'm going with the under. I just think that Houston has the receivers to really hang with them. They've just had too many injuries, and Robert Woods is going to have to play. Robert Woods was on the. Robert Woods has been in the NFL so long. He was drafted before Jared Goff was for the St. Louis Rams. Okay, the St. Louis Rams, who moved. I think it officially was a decade ago. It was the 2014 season when they left. The 2015 season. It's now 2025. Yeah. So I'm just saying it's been a minute. So when Robert Woods has to be your third wide receiver, that's never a great sign.
I'm gonna go with the same thing with Ace. The Detroit Texans been breaking down little by little throughout the year. Unfortunately, this will be the end of the playoff run for the state of Texas because Dallas Cowboys is already out. So I'm going to definitely take the Chargers and the under in this one. This is going to be my first lock of the week. If it's actually these all might as well just be locks because there's not that many games. So anyway,
I was
I'm
gonna
going to
say
go
we
with
probably lock up 3 out of 6. If we just do 3 out of 6 and give people 3 locks, especially if anything you feel really, really strongly about.
all right, yeah. So I'm going to make this my first lock of the week. Then out of the three, I'm taking the Texans and the under in this one.
Wait, you said the Texans or the Chargers?
Oh, sorry about that. Chargers and the under. Sorry about that.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'm gonna roll with you guys. I'm gonna say Chargers and the under here as well. I don't like the pick just because I want the Texans to win. I want to see CJ Stroud and the Texans really, move on and move forward in these playoffs. But I really like what the Chargers are doing defensively, what they have done over the course of the season. And the running game for the Texans has been pretty pedestrian over these last few weeks with Joe Mixon being healthy, but just not playing at a high level. And CJ Stroud is he's taking hits that probably didn't expect him to take over the course of the season, which shows me that their offensive line has not been doing all that well either. So with that offensive line and the pass rush that the Chargers can bring, I don't expect a big game from the offense on that side. So I'm going with you, and I'm gonna take the Chargers at 2.5 and lock it up. And apparently the money's coming in really heavy on the Chargers right now. So um so you get your bets in as soon as possible for this because I could absolutely see this trending up to 3.5 or 4 points by kickoff. All right, next up we have the Steelers 10-7, going to a very familiar spot for them. They're going to Baltimore to face Aces Ravens, 12-5 Ravens. The Ravens pulled out a victory last week against these same Steelers in a game that they needed in order to lock up. Were they against the Steelers? I can't remember if they were against the Steelers or not. But they pulled off a win against, I think it was the Steelers. No, against the Browns. Apologies.
Yeah, the
They
Ravens
pulled off a
got to beat up
blowout.
on the Browns.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They pulled off a blowout win against the Browns to lock up the division. Meanwhile, the Steelers lost their game last Saturday night to the Bengals, and have lost, if I'm not mistaken, 4 straight going into this week. So they're reeling to some degree. Baltimore, this has been the highest line of the week thus far. Baltimore is favored by 9.5 in this game, and it's in some places 8.5, some places 9.5. And so this number is I've seen this number even get up to 10 on a couple of books as well. This is just really timing. If this game was played 6 weeks ago, before the Steelers went on their slide, it's probably Baltimore's probably still favored, but it's probably not by much. So the fact that this is at 9.5 now tells you exactly what people are feeling about what they've seen from the Steelers offensively, what they've seen from the Ravens offensively and defensively up until this point, and not a lot of faith. So Ace, I'm gonna start here with you. This is your adopted team. The Ravens hosting the Steelers, giving up 9.5 points. What are you thinking?
I have a lot of faith in the Ravens, especially because their defense hasn't had to be at their best all year, and they've been getting better the past couple of weeks. Everybody's kind of expecting Mike Tomlin to kind of let them down, and really, it's just more the fact that the offense can't get big plays. George Pickens, they know who they're going to go to. Al Hamilton is healthy. He was able to come back into the game last week. He's been practicing a full participant. And even though they lost Deontay Johnson, who I just found out is now a Houston Texan, which is kind of crazy. This
Yep.
will be his third team. All three teams that he's played on this year, with the exception of one, no, fourth team. This will be his third team year. That's right. He started with Carolina, got traded to Baltimore, and now has ended up in Texas. But I'll focus on Baltimore here. Zay Flowers is likely to play. He's going to play through the injury. They
No,
still
he
have two
he well,
amazing
he's been
tech.
ruled out. He's been ruled out as of today.
Oh, he's been
Yeah,
ruled
that's what
out.
I was about to say.
Ruled
He's
out
been
as of
ruled
today.
out.
Okay. Well, they
I'm
still
reading,
have
I'm
two
reading the
very
article right
good.
now.
They still have wide receivers, and they have the best running back in the AFC. And that so far has been the biggest issue. And Baltimore has the best run defense. So I think Baltimore will win, but I don't see Baltimore covering. So I got to take the Steelers to cover. It just makes too much sense. 10 points is just too much to overcome in the playoffs. I think this is overreaction by the bettors.
All right, Ant.
I can understand why you're taking the Steelers to cover on this Ace, but I'm going to still roll with Baltimore, even though I was reading about what happened with Zay Flowers. I'm a little scary about this game is a little bit scary to bet. Quite for as far as for the overall win, it could actually be a Steeler upset on this and them pulling a win. So I want to put it past them. But right now, for the betting thing, as a concern, I'll take that. I'll take the Baltimore and I'll take the quite the under in this one. But I'm not locked in.
I feel like this game trends, partially because of the injury to Zay Flowers and him not being around. Um, the part of me believes that this is a game that will play um, on that'll play low on purpose in terms of ball control, in terms
Right.
of defensive running games, doing their thing because um, what Baltimore is going to likely do is just suffocate the Pittsburgh offense, not allow them to take any big shots, not allow them to get it to make any big plays, which is what their offense has been built upon. And since they can't do the big plays, they don't have the ability to just kind of move the ball down the field in 12, 13, 14 play drives. And Baltimore can still do that because they can hand that ball off to Derrick Henry 20, 22 times easily. And get out of there with a win. So I think for them, it just makes sense to play a lot of big sets, 12 personnel, especially because their best receivers now are their two tight ends, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Just kind of roll out with that 12 personnel, get those two tight ends out there, and have Derrick Henry run behind it and control the clock and just make things really really difficult for the Steelers. So I agree with you. And to the degree of Baltimore getting a victory here. But I too don't like the line. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers to cover the number. Even though I think Baltimore pretty much wins out in a low scoring matchup between these two teams for the third time of the season. The thing I think is most interesting coming out of this is this narrative, this stupid narrative of the Pittsburgh fan base thinking that life without Mike Tomlin might be better and like they
Oh yeah,
should
I've been
not
seeing
have they
that.
should it's the dumbest thing ever
I
to
actually
have a
got into
coach.
arguments on some of these posters about this with these guys. I'm like, yeah, try to be a Jets fan.
I mean, to have a coach
If
that
they fire him, the
consistently
Bears will hire him the next day.
that afternoon, like if they fire in the morning, he's getting another job there at that afternoon. He's not he'd be on the market for like 30 minutes. Um, Having like I don't think every team, maybe it's just like the fact that like these fans have had great success. It's kind of like when Joe Torre was the Yankees manager for all of those years, where they won a lot of World Series, but more years than not, you're not going to win, but they're always
Or even
competitive,
for or even
you
for
know.
football fans, look at the Patriots. Those fans, a lot of them was just relaxed. They're like they just saw nothing but winning throughout their lives, especially the younger ones.
But see, the difference is with the Patriots, right? They were winning championships, but when they weren't winning championships, they were still going be able to make deep playoff runs. What I'm saying is with the Steelers, what Tomlin has done with this, like with his offense or with his team, over these years is like the fact that he's been able to, have a winning record every year. Like that's hard to do.
No,
It's not easy to do. We are
no, one
fans of
thing.
teams where like it's easy to go from like, you know, 4-2 to start the season, and you 4-2, you're 5-1, you're feeling pretty good, and then you look up and you didn't win another game the rest of the year. Like
No, no, no. The thing is that
you didn't.
I actually saw some Patriots fans that was actually wanted to fire Bill Belichick in his last 2 years when it wasn't winning.
Yeah.
It's like really like this is the same guy who with Tom Brady. Yes, with Tom Brady, yes, it was, but won championships like crazy and kept y'all in the playoffs all the time. Now you want to get rid of him,
Right. But the Steelers are still winning. They're not
right?
losing. It's not like how Belichick had maybe a 4-13 season. No, they're 10-7. They're in the playoffs. Sure, they're not as talented as the Ravens. They're not what you have in Pittsburgh is an issue with the talent on the
Mm-hmm.
team.
Right, because he's
And the
pulling off
quarterback
miracles right
play
now.
ever right. And the quarterback play
And
ever
he's
since
not the
Ben
GM.
Roethlisberger retired. Right?
Right.
Ben Roethlisberger retires, and he's literally dragging this team, which is not as good as the teams that they're playing against. He's dragging them to the playoff contention every year. Tomlin is not the problem.
Dude, I
You guys
wish
need
I
to
had a
get
coach.
over it.
I wish I had Tomlin.
Jeez.
Shoot, Tomlin will be a god in New York with both the Jets or the Giants.
Tomlin is like the one coach that I think could honestly walk into Jerry Jones's locker room and just tell him, shut up, leave me alone, and let me coach the team. And I don't want you to be on TV. And like
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Jones might actually listen because it's Mike freaking Tomlin. All right. Broncos at the Bills. We started talking a little bit about this game a little earlier. Broncos are 11-6, Bills are 13-4. Broncos are coming off of a spirited win against KC's um, backups to the backups team. I don't know if you want to call, I don't even know. There were so many players whose names, it was hilarious. I was looking up the names of the receivers, the receivers that like got the most yardage in the game last week between the Kansas City and the Broncos, and you guys could look it up. It was ridiculous. Names that we'd never heard of before. These are guys that like didn't even make practice squads. They just got pulled off the street. But the Broncos won. They needed to win a game. They won that game 38-0 against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills dropped their season finale against the New England Patriots. Um, which some people believe led to the firing of the Patriots coach, Gerard Mayo. Um, but again, meaningless game for them. Josh Allen started like what he played like a series, and then he got up out of there and relaxed for the rest of the game. So this is the matchup that we have. I know a lot of people were hoping for the Bengals to be here, or even but this is the one we got. I think this is better than if the Dolphins had made it. So I'm happy with that. Happy the Jets handled their business on that side. Um, the Broncos have a really good defense, have had one of the top five ranked defenses in the NFL the entire season. Their offense has been a little up and down, but more up than down, especially since, with Bo Nix, doing his thing as, at the quarterback position and showing his athleticism. And the Bills, regardless of the loss last week against New England, the Bills have been, pretty incredible over the last few weeks, and they've been completely worthy of this number two seeding that they have in the AFC. And their offense is really incredible, led by likely MVP Josh Allen, and their defense, hasn't been great, has been just good enough. Has been just enough to keep things rolling on that side of the football. So, Bills are 8.5 point favorites in this game. The over under is 47.5. Ant, we'll start with you here. Bills, Broncos, the AFC East. What are you thinking?
Um, that's a good. Okay, I was just making sure I'm off the mute. But anyway, I'm gonna go with the Bills on this one. I know I've been hating on them, whatever, but the thing is that the Bills actually have their more put together team. They've been tested in battles together, and this is they're going against the Broncos, who has yes, they have a Bowl winning coach, but they have a rookie at quarterback. Yeah, quite. They actually the Broncos actually overachieved this year, and the Bills is not going to play. Is definitely is a Super Bowl or bust year for them, so they have to pull this one out. So I'm going to go with the Bills. And what's the line on this one? Um,
It's a half right now.
8.5 and the 47.5. Yeah, I'm going to take the Bills and this they're at home, and I'm going to take the over in this one. This is going to be my second lock of the week.
This is lock of the week. I agree with pretty much everything Ant said. I don't think Denver is that good. They were able to steal a win, in my opinion, over a team that wasn't really trying because that team was afraid of Joe Burrow. So, Kansas City come out and done what they should have done and knock them out of the playoffs. We'd be watching, the Bengals here. But the Bengals are probably the one team that, KC is probably a little bit afraid of because they beat them in their house to go to the Super Bowl a couple years back. I'm taking Buffalo. They're going to crush them. It should be fun to watch. Sean Payton allegedly turned the team around, but that's still alleged until they win a playoff game with me.
This is difficult for me because I think that this is. I think that Denver is a sneaky cover. I don't think they're a sneaky win here, but I think they're a sneaky cover because I think the Bills defense is just kind of middle of the pack. They're 21st in the NFL in yards per play. They're 17th in red zone defense, 29th on third down, and 22nd in sack rate. Like they're just not a great defensive team in any way, shape, or form. And the Broncos actually have, a pretty good offensive line and a pretty good defense. And they have a receiver in Cortland Sutton that can definitely cause some problems. My main concern about them really is, the fact that they're led by a rookie quarterback. And they also have the coach, I know Anthony can't stand the guy, but they also kind of have the coaching the tick in that direction with Sean Payton. Even though I think McDermott is a fantastic coach.
Aiden's
Uh,
overrated. Never did it
he
without
only
Breeze.
okay, but Breeze didn't do it without him either. So same thing. It's the you can say what you say what you want about that. Um, but the main concern that I have is really the Bo Nix situation. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback on the road, playing in a in a playoff situation, playoff environment. This is new for him. So I think that the Bills win this game, but I'd like the Broncos to cover. Um, they are Denver is 3-1 on the road this year against the spread. And so I just like them to keep it relatively close, play a playoff game, cover the number, and because I just think this is really, really high. So I'll take it. I'll take Denver plus the 9 points. But again, I don't feel great about it, but I feel like this is something that, they could definitely work out in a playoff situation and, make things look pretty good for themselves. All right. Packers at the Eagles. Packers 11, Eagles 14-3. The Eagles rested everybody last week in a loss against the New York football. I'm sorry, a win against the New York Football Giants. So they still wound up being able to win the football game there. While the Green Bay Packers lost to the Chicago Bears. Chicago, Aces Bears were able to end the streak in a game that Green Bay actually was playing all their
Goddamn
starters
right we
and
did.
absolutely playing like they needed it. They did not rest anybody, and they played hard. They played they tried to play their best game and didn't were not able to get the victory because they were playing for seeding in the playoffs. And in the midst of that game, Jordan Love got injured, and Christian Watson. I'm sorry, is it Christian Watson? Christian Watson is his name. Yeah, the receiver got injured as well, and unfortunately he tore his ACL, and he is out for the remainder of the year, and likely at some point in time into next season. And Jordan Love looks like he injured his elbow. All signs point to him being able to play, but we'll see about that. Meanwhile, on the other side, looks like Jalen Hurts is coming back from his concussion from a couple of weeks ago. He's still in the protocol, but everybody looks like he's actually going to be able to be out there and playing, which bodes well for Philadelphia. They'll have all of their pieces there. So right now the Eagles are favored here by 4.5 points. The over/under here is 45 and a half. And I'm gonna come back to you here. I'm sorry, Packers at the Eagles. What are you thinking?
This is going to be a fun game to watch here. Both teams are really good as far as quite concerned as far as their games and stuff like that. But I'm going to go with the Eagles on this one, and I'm going to take the. That's going to be a hard one. I'm going to take the over in this one. I'm not going to lock this one in, but I think this is going to be definitely a good game, and the team actually had a good rest. The Saquon Barkley, one of the players that should be in the MVP conversation is going to be back and is going to be playing. And he had a good time, a good chance to rest, and then he gets a good chance to go. They get that good chance to go for that run for that Super Bowl championship. Hopefully, they can make it past a couple of games, but I don't think they're going to go that far. But as we keep on rambling, I'm going to take the um the Eagles, and I'm going to take the over in this one.
Roll with you as well. I'm gonna take the Eagles and over. I'm gonna lock this in for me. I just think the Packers are, they're kind of limping into this situation a little bit. They're coming off of, two losing two straight. Lost to Chicago last week, as I mentioned, and lost to Minnesota the week before. Both were games that they absolutely, needed for their seeding purposes, and they didn't look great doing it. So, Jalen Hurts, this Philadelphia offense being completely ready to go, clicking on all cylinders. I think this is a pretty easy. They're just kind of landing into an easy spot for them this time around. I think it's going to be a really difficult game for Green Bay to get untracked, especially with the weakness of their offensive line up the middle and Jalen Carter, all pro Jalen Carter, being able to wreck shop from that perspective. So I'll take the Eagles and I'll take the over, and I'm going to lock this in as my second lock of the week. Ace, over to you.
This is my second lock of the week. The team with the best offensive line is going to win. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. They are going to roll through at home. Whether or not Jalen Hurts plays, I genuinely don't even think matters. Um, the Packers defense, as we saw against the Bears last week in Green Bay, not in Chicago, in Green Bay, weren't able to stop a rookie quarterback who got off to very slow starts all year. Caleb Williams threw for 3,500 yards. But back to the Eagles, a 2,000-yard rusher who is in the conversation for MVP and will win Offensive Player of the Year. They have one of the best wide. They still have the best offensive line, in my opinion. The only team that comes close are the Lions, but I would say the tackles. I would say Lane Johnson as their right tackle is probably a little bit better than the Lions one. So you know, collision course, Eagles Lions NFC title game in Detroit, a couple weeks. But yeah, the Eagles should. I don't understand what this line isn't bigger. Knowing that they lost one of their biggest young threats, knowing that um, their corners are kind of banged up as we're getting torched by the Bears last week. I'm genuinely shocked that this line is 7. So I'm gonna jump on this one first, and I'm gonna bet this one heavy. So go Birds.
Yeah, alongside you, Ace. Feeling really good about this Eagles pick. And just as a correction, Lane Johnson is not better than Penei Sewell. Sorry. Um, Com-
Panay Sewell is a left
Commanders.
tackle.
No,
He's a left
Panay is a
tackle.
right. Panay is a right
You
tackle.
sure?
Our left tackle
Sure
is
about
Taylor
that?
Decker. Our left tackle
Oh,
is Taylor
Um,
I
Decker.
thought that was reversed. All right.
No, it is not.
Ace, you gonna try to tell a fan what side player his team? But it don't make no sense.
I know
I'm
my
jumping on
backup left
words.
guard. Okay, like okay, like let's keep it completely honest over here. Um, all right, Commanders at the Bucks. This is probably my I'm most interested in this game. Commanders are 12-5, Buccaneers are 10-7. The Bucks squeaked into the playoffs with a victory over the New Orleans Saints, where they did not cover and they ruined mine and Ace's parlay. They did not cover the 14 and a half point favorite that they were. They wound up winning that game by 8, trailing that game for most of the game, and then Baker Mayfield and the offense brought them back towards the end. Shout out to Mike Evans for getting his 11th consecutive 1,000 yard season. And shout out to Baker Mayfield and the Bucks for, deliberately going after it, and just kind of just being being honest that that was something that was important to them, and taking advantage of the opportunity they got at the end of the game to get that done. Meanwhile, Washington on the other side, they didn't play a lot of their starters. Jaden Daniels only played like I think it was like a half or a couple of minutes of the first quarter. I don't know, but he didn't play much. He left the game once they realized that the game meant nothing from a standings perspective for them. And but Washington still wound up coming out with a win in Dallas, 23 to 19. They didn't cover the spread as well on that, but I don't think they really cared. This was the big game that they wanted to get into. These two teams played each other in week one, in the same spot at Tampa. Tampa won that game, if I'm not mistaken. It was 34 to 20. I'm sorry, 37 to 20. They won that game. And that was the first game of the career of Jaden Daniels. Is this the last game of the rookie year of Jaden Daniels? We shall see. Right now, the Buccaneers are 3-point favorites, and the over-under on this game is 50 and a half. Ace, I'm going to come back to you here. Buccaneers hosting the Commanders. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking the over is, and I'm thinking the Bucks because they're getting points, and I don't have much faith in Washington's defense. The Commies finally got back to the playoffs after a really long drought. The Commanders, I should say, and Jaden Daniels is, but Baltimore's really good safeties. I mean, Baltimore, Tampa Bay has really good safeties and really good linebackers. Shaq Barrett, and I don't see being able to run on them. I think they're going to spy him really well, and they're going to be able to contain him. Tampa was one of the few teams. I believe they had a game against Baltimore earlier in the year, which was very, very competitive. And I expect this game to be competitive as well. I don't know if yeah, they stayed with Baltimore and they ended up losing that game 41-31.
Yep. Yep.
And I think the difference in that one was, clearly Lamar. But I think that Tampa can really, 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 really upset a couple of people this week and beat them. And they are at home, so I think that gives them a big advantage as well.
Tampa being And look, Tampa's one of the two teams that beat us, beat the Lions this year. The Lions went 15-2. One of those losses was against Tampa in week two, at home, by the way. So I know how tough the Bucks are, as a team. But Tampa, I just want to correction, Ace. Tampa is giving points here. You said Tampa was getting points. Tampa is the 3-point favorite here. So I don't know if that changes your.
Not at
Um,
all. I'm still
okay.
going to lock in Tampa.
Okay.
Third lock of the
Um,
week.
okay. Cool. Over to you.
This is a very hard game to play. To call on this one. I can definitely see why you guys are picking the Buccaneers. Well, Ace, I can see why you picking the Buccaneers, but I'm gonna go to reverse. I'm gonna go with the Commanders on this one. I'm not gonna lock this in. I'm gonna take the under in this one as far as this is concerned. And I think Tampa Bay is actually a good team. They actually got a good. Well, I'm not gonna say a good coach because I don't like Todd Bowles. That's just my personal opinion. But they got a good quarterback in Baker Mayfield, and they got a good team put together. They do their things. You know what? Let me put respect on Todd Bowles. He's definitely a good coach on this one. But the Commanders is coming out gun blazing, gun hot, whatever. I think they can pull it off. So give me the Commanders, even though they're going to the Buccaneers home, and give me the under. I think they could pull this off.
Todd Bowles is the official. I believe somebody said that on ESPN earlier this week, and
Okay.
I should get the credit because Todd Bowles will always get you to 10-7 or 9-8 or 8-8 back in the day with Jeff Fisher. And yeah, he's a good coach, good defensive coach. But the problem is defense hasn't been great, but they will step up, I believe.
So I'm rolling with Andrew, just for two reasons. One, I like getting points in this situation. I think this is a good place to get some points, for a team in Washington that can absolutely score the football, and we know that they can score multiple different ways. Jaden Daniels throwing the football, running the football. They have McLaurin. as a big time receiver. Zach Ertz has done some big things for them this year. Their running back duo of Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler has been impressive for different stretches. Their defense has not been great, but their defense doesn't hasn't really had to be great in a lot of spaces because their offense is putting up points. Um, the other reason why is Baker Mayfield leads the league. If he had a great season. Nothing against him in terms of his season. He had 41 touchdowns, over 4,000 passing yards. Really stepped in and supplanted his and made his case for why that $100 million contract was definitely valid for him to get. But he did lead the league in interceptions this year with, I believe, 16 was the number that he had this year. And he's a bit of a gunslinger and willing to kind of put it all out there and put his team in whatever do whatever he can possibly do to get his team in position to win the football game. And sometimes that leads to bad decisions, even at home. So I think I like the Buccaneers to win the game, but I think this game plays a lot closer than especially that week one game did. And it's gonna come down to the wire. So I like the Commanders with the points here to get to be able to cover the three. All right, that leads us to the last game of the slate. The 14-3 Vikings going to the LA Rams at 10-7. Just to note, this game has, because of the wildfire situation in California, this game is being moved. The NFL did decide just recently to move this game to Arizona. So this game will be played at the State Farm Arena in Arizona, where the Cardinals play. Um, so it won't be a home game really for either team, which we'll get to this. I think I want to talk about this a little bit, later as we get into it. But I actually like the idea of these types of games, even when the division winner doesn't have as many wins as the wild card team that they're playing against, playing in a neutral stadium that is relatively close to the stadium where the home team plays, just because there's all that hoopla about why should the division team, the division winner, get it when they have a worse record. Um, so obviously this is happening under unfortunate circumstances, but the fact is that they are playing in a different location, and this won't be a home game for either one of those teams. Even though probably Minnesota fans will travel. Um, the Vikings are 1.5 point favorites here over the hosting Rams. The Vikings lost last week in a very, very very highly touted, highly publicized game against Detroit.
That put
And
a
the
smile on your
Rams,
face.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Made me smile very big. And the Rams lost their game 30-25 against the Seahawks in a relatively meaningless game where nobody started, nobody played nobody of merit played for them as well. So the Rams are rested, they're ready to go, and the Vikings come in a little bit banged up from that loss that they suffered against the Lions and having to go through the gauntlet of the wild card race to get to the promised land where they want to go. Um, and I'm gonna start here with you. Vikings, Rams, Vikings -1.5. What are you thinking?
Yes, once again, unfortunately, what's happening right now in LA, but this is actually, unfortunately, I hate to say this, more of a blessing for the Vikings or whatever. Because if you think about it, a lot of those fans that was going to be there and for the Rams is not going to be attending to this game over here. They might be more dealing with other situations back at home. You're definitely right about the Vikings fans. They're definitely going to be traveling, and I can definitely see them packing in the stadium mostly. But as far as for the fandom concerned, whatever, as far as for the teams concerned, I'm going to go with the Vikings and I'm going to take the under in this one. This is the final lock of the week. I'm just going to take the advice of this person here. Hopefully, I can hear the audio on this. I do apologize if you don't hear it because I don't have that type of setup yet.
Nah,
So
we can
Dan
hear it,
Camp,
man.
oh, I do apologize, but that was basically a clip from Dan Campbell saying, "I'll see you guys in 2 weeks at the end of the game." I don't know if you saw that. Dan Campbell already knows who's going to win. So against that game, even though the Rams do have the veterans, and a lot of them, those veterans on the Rams played in the Super Bowl or Super Bowl champions. I'm definitely going to go with the Vikings on this one. They got the best, one of the best built teams in the playoffs, so this is definitely going to feel more like a NFC championship game than I'm talking about for next week. It's going to seem like more like an NFC championship game more than just a second round playoff. So I'm already writing off the Rams on this one. So give me the Vikings and give me the under this one, and this is going to be my third lock of the week.
Yeah, writing off the Rams. Ace, over to you.
Going with I'm going with the Rams obviously here. They're the better
Of
team, they
course,
have the better quarterback, they have the better coach. So I'm going with Sean McVay and I'm going with the Rams. I'm sorry, I feel bad. I feel horrible for the people in California whose homes just fallen to the ground. That is genuinely unfortunate. But when it comes to football, the Rams are the better squad and they're gonna win. It seems pretty evident. Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, Kyron Williams. I mean, they got it. They got it. And they got a pretty good defense and better pass rush, in fairness to the Rams
I'm not going to
defensively.
disagree with Dan Campbell. So
I'm disagreeing with Dan Campbell.
Hey, as long as Dan Campbell's right about his team, I don't care what he says about the other team. Um, I'm rolling with the Rams here as well, and I'm gonna make this my final lock of the week. So we're dueling locks here, Ant. I just want to note something that's very, very interesting. That nobody's talking about, but it's just kind of weird and weirdly interesting. It's one of those weird NFL stats. Um, so week 7, I'm gonna take you guys all the way back to week 7 of the NFL of this current NFL season. The Vikings lost the game to the Lions in a game where they gave up 31 points. The next week, they went to LA and played against the Rams and lost to the Rams. Last week, the Vikings lost a game to the Lions where they gave up 31 points
yeah,
and
history
now they
repeating.
go to play the Rams. It's
History repeating.
hilarious. It's crazy. It's just so crazy that I was just like,
That's pretty amazing.
this is like really. Like, I was like, um, and it's funny because even in that week 7 game, the Vikings lost. They lost. They gave up 31. They scored 29. This time they scored 9. So it was like even the nines matched up. It was insane. Like that number, that 1-9 number was crazy. Um, Teams all season have a poor record after playing the Lions. It's been consistent over the course of the year. There was like a stretch where they lost like 7 straight, where like teams were 0-7 after playing the Lions. But it's been pretty consistent that teams go into those situations relatively beat up, and they don't play their best ball coming out of that. So because of that, because of the rest that the Rams were able to get, because of just what we already know about that team and that defense, and I think that one of the things that the Detroit Lions definitely showed as it pertains to the Vikings is that Sam Darnold can be rattled. He's not these, and we already knew he was Josh Allen, he wasn't Patrick Mahomes, he wasn't Lamar Jackson, he wasn't on that level of quarterback. But if you can pressure him, you can make him really, you can make him really take a step down in his accuracy and his decision making. He missed a lot of throws in those games, both throws that he made and throws that he just didn't pull the trigger on. That I mean, I even saw some of those receivers open running against my Lions, and I was glad he didn't make the throw, but he didn't. Um, and I feel like if the Rams can get a rush, if they can get a pass rush on the Vikings, especially if they can do it without having to blitz, that's an area where I think that they're going to be able to make some plays. And that's what happened in the last game against them on Thursday Night Football with the Vikings and the Rams. Vikings were able to get pressure with Jared Verse and their defensive line, and the Vikings weren't able to counter that, and the Rams were able to score on the other side, and Matt
You,
Stafford was able to handle that pressure and that blitz from them, and that was before the injury the injury to their star offensive tackle, the Vikings, that he got hurt in that game, so he was actually playing in that game. Um, and they've since lost that guy, and now they replaced him with Cam Robinson, who's been serviceable, but definitely not as good as I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. who was there initially. But because
You
of
know what's
those
kind of messed up
reasons,
though?
huh?
If
Dara
Sam
Shaw is
Darnold
who you're
actually,
thinking of.
if
Yes,
it's
yes, Christian, yes, Darashaw, yeah.
if
What's
you
that,
actually
Ant?
think about it, if you actually think about it, if Sam Darnold is the reason why they lose this game, or maybe even lose against Detroit the following week if they actually make it out, he actually his contract, his pay might actually get cut down, and less teams might be actually less interested in him.
Oh, I think it already has been impacted just by the tape that came out, the tape with the Lions. I think it's already been impacted to some degree. I think this game and his performance in this game may very well speak to his future on the Vikings, and
Right.
whether or not he is franchised or traded or something along those lines. But to that end, all those things considered, I'm going Rams. I'm going the over, and I'm locking this in as my third lock of the week. That is that for the 6 games. So Ace is locking in the Bills, the Eagles, and the Bucks. Ant is locking in the Chargers, the Bills, and the Vikings, and I'm locking in Chargers, Eagles, and Rams. So
Oh, I want to hear
difficult
Ace's
locks
dad's picks now.
across
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So
And
yes,
for
that's
that,
what I was going to get into. So
my
now
pops is
we'll
picking.
kick it over to
Oh,
Dad.
my pops is picking Texas to win the entire college football playoff. He said they have the best roster and the best offensive and defensive line,
Okay.
even though he does not like Texas. He's taking Philly over Green Bay, Steelers over Baltimore. He's insane. Chargers over Texans, Bills over Broncos, Vikings over Rams. He agrees with you, Ant, and the Commanders over Tampa. So you see why I made my picks and why I'm at 59 and my father is at 48.8% on the season with his pro picks. His college picks have been very good. So I would follow him on Texas. He may know what he's talking about. Because Ohio State did lose to Michigan.
With Dad picks as well. Ace. Who are the Bills? Who are the Bears gonna pick a new head coach? What do you think?
Pete Carroll.
Can't be Mac McCarthy. Pete Carroll? You think Pete Carroll's gonna go there?
I think they're going to go with an older coach who is really good on defense. And he's going to bring in an offensive coordinator, either him or Ben Johnson. But until Ben Johnson loses, the Bears won't interview him. So he wants to be interviewed by like 4 different teams, and he's only interviewing with teams he's serious about. And he turned down the Jets. So there's that.
Yeah, Ben Johnson turned on the Jets and Aaron Glenn turned on the Patriots. I heard about
Yeah, that
that
was
today.
great. That
Kind
was
of interesting.
awesome.
After they did what's his name dirty, he's like, you're not about to do this with me. You sorry ass people. Nah, I'm good. Straight on that.
Exactly. And they already satisfied their Rooney Rule because they already interviewed Byron Leftwich and there was another guy, I think Pep Hamilton, they
Yes, Pep.
interviewed as well.
There
So
was no
yeah.
reason for them to hire a guy who they thought was inexperienced, who had only been a linebackers coach as their head coach. If they'd have made him the
Actually,
DC, that would have made more sense.
from what I heard, is that they didn't really finish satisfying the Rooney Rule. I think he's also changed where they actually have to have in-person interviews as well.
Oh, okay. And they can't have in-person interviews with Lions folks, the Lions guys. They can
Right,
only take interviews over Zoom or whatever right
right.
now
I hope they
because of
end up
certain
with Rex
things.
Ryan.
They're not.
Hey. Uh and actually that's my second question to you, Ed. Is there any real traction
Oh
to
no,
this
not the
Rex
Jets. I'm
Ryan
talking
wanting to
about the
come back to the
Pats.
Jets? No. I was saying
No,
I just wanted to ask about Ant about the traction from is there any real traction in this Rex Ryan back to the Jets? And if he was to go back, would you actually be okay with that?
I mean, because as far as for this, I'm gonna ask you a second question first. As long as he has a good GM that actually knows what he's doing. If he actually had like Joe Douglas, I'll be okay. But if he has a good GM and he actually has a actually competent OC that actually used to be a coach, a head coach, and actually, would actually stick with him and he would stick with that coach as well. But as far as if he has like say a rookie head coach and a rookie GM or quite a GM that doesn't know what he's doing, stuff like that, I wouldn't want Rex Ryan.
Okay.
But I think half of the fan base actually wants him, and quite he actually might be a serious candidate because the 33 team is supposed to be the ones that's actually doing the search for this, and he's actually unlike past coaches whatever he actually still has good relationships with the Jets. He's actually a deep Jets fan, and Mike Tannenbaum is one of the people that works with Rex as well with this and is actually the one that's actually one of the people that's ahead of the search. So this actually might be, want to make him one of the top candidates on this thing, but he's not really my top candidate. I say I have him maybe like fourth or fifth or whatever on my list. I have of course I have Variable, which is definitely might be going with the Patriots or Raiders on my top. And actually after that I got Aaron Glenn. And then after that I have what's the name from the Vikings? I don't know why he's slipping my mind right now. The defensive coach.
Oh, Flores.
Flores, yeah, he's one of my. I've been saying this for years. He's one of my favorite coaches. Flores, I definitely put him on top of there. And actually, quite it might seem like a joke, but I actually quite have. If you got me a couple of years ago, this I thought it was BS, but they keep coming back to this. I actually like Josh McCown, even though he's just a offensive. He's a quarterbacks coach or whatever. They've been talking about him for a long time. There's some of these systems throughout the league that people is actually looking at him as being a quite maybe next year as a good top one of those top head coaching candidates, whatever. But I say, right now, quite he might be a good person to look into right now. Pair him up with a former head coach, whatever, to be his defensive coordinator or assistant coach, whatever. You actually can quite do some things with him. And he's been working with Sam Darnold for years. I think that's another reason why Sam Darnold is actually kind of good because remember, even as a coach, I mean, even as a backup player, he was working with Sam Darnold with the Jets. And speaking of that, when they was talking about they was thinking about firing Todd Bowles back then, quite even though Josh McCown was the actual quite backup coach, they was actually thinking about having him quite take over as interim coach at that time. Just a little inside thing that I found out on that.
Okay. Well, I think McCown definitely has a future in the NFL, especially from the coaching ranks. Yeah, and you're right. He did get a lot of love and a lot of conversation when
Even
he
with the
was
Texans.
thought about as the the Texans coach as well. Right now, yeah, and you're right. He did work exclusively or
Bobby
extensively with
Slowick.
Sam Darnold. Bobby Slowick is with the Texans now, right?
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah. No, McCown was looked at as being
The head
a
coach.
head coach candidate for the Texans. This
Yep.
was around the David Culley, Lovie Smith era, right before they wound up going with the guy who's there now, D'Amico Ryans. Um, but I definitely think McCown could live as an OC um, to whatever team winds up
Shoot, they
going,
they look actually
whatever
looking at
coach
him as
winds
a
up going
future
there.
Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, yeah, and that could definitely be the case as well because he's working with O'Connell in Minnesota. Um, yeah, I think those are all great, great, great options there, man. Obviously, I have an affinity for Aaron Glenn as the
Right.
DC of the Detroit Lions. He has a history with the Saints. He worked in that organization as well. And I mean, he was a long time, great player for the New York Jets. So I would love to see Aaron Glenn back on the Jets sideline, coaching the team. I think he's an incredible coach, an incredible guy. I've listened to him in his press conferences over the last few years since he's been the Lion DC, and I love the guy. I think he's a fantastic guy, fantastic coach. So he's got my vote, and I'm
I think he's
pretty
for
sure
some
he's
reason I
going to
think
be
he's
a
going to end
coach
up with the
somewhere.
Saints. I think he's going to end up with the Saints, and I think your
I,
offensive coordinator is coming back again for next year.
our offensive coordinator, you think Ben Johnson's
Yeah,
coming back? I mean,
I
like,
think he's coming back to the Lions.
I think if the Lions win the Super Bowl, see, the thing about Ben Johnson, and the thing about Ben Johnson, we'll get to shout outs right after this. The thing about Ben Johnson, he has a very, very long history with Dan Campbell. They've been connected to each other apparently for a very long time, even going all the way back to Campbell's days in Miami, when he was the interim head coach there. He had Ben Johnson working with him, and so this was a long time coming. So I honestly think that if the situation is not, I don't want to say perfect, but it's not to his, to his liking, he
Right.
could absolutely go back and run back another year with the team there. But I did think here that there was some traction on the Jaguar situation, and that he was definitely interested in taking that situation, especially if he had some say and some sway in the decision around the front office situation with Trent Baalke there, which it sounds like the owner Shad Khan is open to doing for the right candidate. Um, so I definitely heard there was talk about Ben Johnson and potentially him bringing Mark Brunell with him as his OC, which we know Mark Brunell's history with the Jaguars organization as well. So,
That's a
I think
smart
there's some
move.
traction there too. So, we'll see. I feel like it's all going to be figured out, ironed out over the next couple of weeks. So, we'll see what winds up happening. So, good luck to all those coaches and good luck to
Listen
all
to
those
me
teams
make this prediction right now. Bill Belichick will be a head coach before the start of next season in the NFL.
in the
For
NFL.
for the
You think they're
rate
going
for
to
the
give him
Current
rate,
that
head
one
coach of
million?
UNC, but he will be a head coach in the NFL because there are six openings and people are desperate.
they talking about that he might go to the Raiders.
I think that buyout
He,
is kind of
I
crazy.
think so.
I think the buyout is
$1
a little
million
crazy.
dollars
No,
after
it's
June
10
1.
yeah, it's 10 million after it's 10 million now, it's 1 million after June 1. And as a coach, as a team, do you really want to wait until June to make
I
your
bet
coaching
you they
decision
would. I bet you they
after
would.
the draft, after
Especially the
free
Raiders, who are
agency?
notoriously cheap. Oh, hell yeah.
They're not going to do that.
I,
Just going to pay off the $10 million and call it a day.
you kind of, but as I'm saying, like, don't like, right. And you kind of want your coach to be there for all of those major decisions, the draft, free agency, trades, all of that stuff that could be happening. By June, like they've already had mini camp, right? Like they've already had like the mandatory mini camps have already happened. Rookie camps
If
have
you
happened. So
if you think about
hiring a
it, I
coach
think it's
that late just seems weird.
if you think about it, I definitely think it could be the Raiders after they might get turned down by everybody else. I could think it could be the Raiders getting them, and they're the same type of team that still on the what's his name John Gruden still on their payroll for that $100 million 10 year BS. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if they paid $10 million just to get Belichick in there.
I would say this: if the Raiders wind up signing Bill Belichick, shout out to Tom Brady who comes up in a major way and becomes Bill Belichick's boss. That's amazing. That would be amazing.
Well, now I am the master. You the petty one.
You say the Belichick way? It's the Brady way now, homie. You gonna be everybody. Remember he
TB12.
was. Remember Belichick didn't like Tom Brady's trainer or something like that, like being
Yep.
in the thing. It's like, nah, Tom Brady's trainer is gonna be the head trainer on the team. Everybody's gonna do things the Brady way, and Belichick's just gonna have to eat crow. All right, let's get the shout outs real quick before we roll off here. Ace, you want to kick us off with your shout outs?
Real quick for me today. Um, shout out to shout out to Cam Jordan and shout out to Zion Williamson for donating the money victims and
Yeah.
the people in New Orleans who unfortunately had to undergo that attack. They gave it out to the victims, and you know what? Shout out to them for putting up some money. I think how much Cam Jordan gave, but it was thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. But shout out to Zion, who's been in the news for not such great things, but finally got back on the court and is donating and committed to his community. That's a beautiful thing, and I love to see that from players when they get involved. And they get to learn more about the people around them and actually be part of that. And shout out to my Knicks, 24 and 12 or 13, third and doing the damn thing. And my Ravens about to go to the Super Bowl.
I just like to give out shout out to our fans that's listening to this. Hopefully, grow a little bit more on this. Also shout outs to and hopefully pray for the people in like Ace of St. New Orleans and also for the people in Los Angeles and who caused major disasters around the world in this one. And shout outs to our hosts here. We're about to go into the playoffs and see what actually happens. And shout outs to Ace as well to you for winning our fantasy football championship. Even though I don't like the last week, it's kind of BS that my quarterback
18
sat
weeks,
and and I lost.
baby.
I wound up losing because of my quarterback, who happens to be on the Redskins, decided to become a cheerleader. But whatever. Shout out, shout out to you, Ace, for winning that. And you kind of stopped me from quite taking all that money and buying me a championship belt because that's how I was actually designing to that quarterback decided to take a seat.
Now Carson Beck, who is injured and entering the transfer portal. I didn't think that that was going to happen. Obviously I thought that there was a point where
I thought he declared for the draft.
he did declare for the draft and now he entered the transfer portal. I don't know
Double
what.
reverse.
Yeah, I have, dude. I have no idea um, what's happening here. But I guess because he was injured and because he hurt his UCL there in his throwing elbow, then he announced the draft and now he's entering the portal. So I just don't know what's going to wind up happening for him, but maybe he just wants to be able to put together a good quality year so that he can, be the number 2 overall pick because we already know. based on if you've listened, based on the conversations that we had with Levon a few weeks back, Arch Manning will be the number one pick, regardless of what he does next next season, unless he absolutely just doesn't do a damn thing and wets the bed the entire season. Arch Manning will be the starting quarterback, or be the number one pick in the NFL draft next year.
I'll
Um,
save this question for next week, but I just want to say, do teams tank it out another year just to get Arch?
I mean, good
You
question,
know,
Ace.
Leak, go ahead and finish your shout out. Sorry about
I think that's going to be this year because some decisions that are being made about quarterbacks this year may tell you who might be thinking of tanking for next year. Um, Again, yep. Shout out to, like I was mentioning, shout out. Well, Ant mentioned it, and Ace mentioned it. Our prayers and thoughts with the victims in both New Orleans and Los Angeles. Our prayers are with all of you in this trying time, and hopefully this, in light of everything that's going on with you, you'll able to take some levity and some joy out of watching these games if you are able to do so. Um, and hopefully you bounce back on your feet very soon from these situations. Shout out to the NCAA football. It seems like it's just the latest that it's ever happened where these football games are happening. We've got Notre Dame and Penn State playing, in Texas playing Ohio State as well tomorrow. So interesting games there. Interesting college football playoff, and the final game of the college football season will be next Monday. Which is again just really late. Seems really late for me for some reason. But anyway, shout out to them for getting their season finished out and getting rolling for that. And last but not least, shout out to all of the teams who are not in the playoffs this year, not in the NFL playoffs this year, and are already on the hunt for the next year's draft picks. This is by far one of my favorite parts of the NFL season is draft season. It's coming up really soon, and once the Super Bowl is over, we'll be all right back at it, trying to figure out who our team is gonna select. Thanks again for sticking with us,